Welcome back to Ask the Experts on Buzz TV. I'm your host, Mike White, and on Ask the Experts, we're meeting with industry experts talking about what makes them tick, what their pain points are, and what they see for the future and growth. Joining us today is Tom Daly from Sales Xceleration. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's great to be here.
So tell me about Sales Xceleration and what services you provide your customers.
Yeah, thanks. I think a lot of people get confused at what we actually do. I think most people are very familiar with what a fractional CFO does. We are fractional sales leaders, and not as well known, but a very important service. And actually, it's a need that a lot of small businesses, small to medium sized businesses really need, because a lot of times it started from an entrepreneur's idea, right? And they really launched, and they got to that really good place where I have a successful business. But as they grow, they suddenly hit that ceiling where scalability becomes elusive, right? And so they have to kind of change things and kind of construct their business in order to accomplish that scalability. And that's what we do. So we either help them build their sales infrastructure so it can be really weaponized, or we are a part-time sales manager. So they get all of our experience for a fraction of the cost. That's very helpful for small to medium-sized businesses that may not be able to afford a full-blown comp package for a VP of sales, but they do have the need. And so it's a very affordable value proposition.
What is the turnover in the sales industry? As obviously during COVID and everyone was trying to find the best people, the price point on a sales rep kept going and going and going and going, and people would stay with an organization 6 to 12 months and keep jumping. Do you see that still? Is that still happening, or have you seen it readjust itself?
Well, we do. I mean, forever and a day, sales has always been a high turnover profession. But really, if you look at the micro of why is that turnover happening, it really varies from organization to organization. So companies that are really fully constructed from a sales standpoint, and they've chosen the right people, and they've really been able to articulate their value proposition, they generally experience a lot lower turnover as opposed to folks that don't. But you brought up the pandemic, and so that made an interesting kind of dynamic for us where a lot of people kind of held on to their jobs, just saying, hey, I'm in a safe space, I'm okay. And business kept going up. And as you said, the compensation kept going up. And so we are seeing some people jump from industry to industry. But I think what we're going to start to see is that it's going to see where the better salespeople are really rising to the top. And I think we're going to see businesses be a lot more choosy, because as you said, those comp plans are getting up there, so that return on investment must be captured, or it's not a good investment.
Speaking of industries, is there a certain industry that Sales Xceleration focuses on that is your niche?
Not really. I think we all kind of have different niches based on what our industry experience is, but we tend to be fairly industry agnostic, just because the sales process, while there are very specific nuances in each industry, the process itself and the skill set involved tends to be very common from industry to industry. There are certainly little nuances, but it doesn't change too terribly much. And I always tell people, a lot of times the joke is, when I'm hiring people, I want somebody with 50 years of experience. That's the only people we want to hire. But in fact, it's not really about that. It's what is their capacity to learn. And I always joke that every industry I've ever been in, I didn't know a blessed thing about, right? So it's a matter of being able to learn quickly and use those skill sets to be specifically effective in the industry that you're in.
Is there a KPI or metric success that when a CEO engages Sales Xceleration that you're held accountable to? And what time frame does it take to get there?
That's a great question. So obviously what we come to the table with is the ability to grow revenue better than it's ever been before. So the easy metrics are, what is the revenue growth? But what's really important is, what is a healthy sales organization? So we track a number of KPIs, both leading and lagging. And when we take over the sales team, we actually a lot of times implement EOS, which is a great operating system for all companies, but it's an excellent operating system for sales. And we look at those KPIs on a weekly basis and address them in real time. One of the biggest shortfalls that companies experience is, like, when's the last time you had a sales meeting? Oh, 2 months ago. When's the last time you went over the pipeline with your salespeople? Well, we do that occasionally. And that's just not acceptable. It has to be done in real time, has to be done weekly, and it's the only way you can manage both conversions and improvement.
Where do you find the most success? Is it with companies that have less than 25 team members or organizations with over 50?
Yeah, great question. Typically in my space, we generally look, I mean, revenue is it's not a perfect indicator, but generally it's those companies that are in that $5 to $50 million of revenue range. And to your point, usually 50 reps or less. And I actually have accounts that are as small as 2 or 3 reps. It just depends on what the ticket price is for the type of product that they're selling. So it's a pretty wide band. Above that number, we're generally looking at public companies where they usually have far more internal resources. And below that number, they probably don't necessarily have the critical mass. So there's a balancing act that comes out during our interview.
How often do you look at the qualifications that CEOs, executives are putting in their sales managers? They look at their top sales rep and promote them when it might not have been the right person. Just because you're good at sales does not make you good at management. How often do you see that when you enter the organization?
A tremendous thing, and it's kind of that old adage, right? That the top salesperson always ends up becoming the next sales manager. And while that's an easy decision, to your point, it's generally not the best one because it's a different set of skill sets from a coach to somebody that can analyze trend data, value proposition, and coach a team to get there individually. And then there's a producer. And while that is possibly transferable in a career path, a lot of times it's an easy decision, but not the right one. So the discussion we have with CEOs is we need to have the right person in the right seat, and that means job descriptions. To your point, KPIs. It's going to be past history. The kind of behavior that you did in the past is a likely indicator of the future. And then being sure that we really, really check those references to see if we've had that continuous history of achievement. And that's it. And so, yeah, usually the internal promotion, it can happen sometimes, but typically it does not work, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but when you think about it a little bit more deeply, it makes sense.
Tom, thank you very much for coming on today, and we appreciate you being on Ask the Expert.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike. Have a great day.
To find out more about Tom and Sales Xceleration, all the amazing things they could do to help you grow your organization, visit us at iwantabuzz.com. We'll see you next time on Buzz TV.